What are the best and worst sleep protocols for perfect health? For sleep protocol to rank highly, it needs to tick 3 boxes. 1. Increase deep sleep and REM sleep. 2. It needs to eliminate sleep disturbances. If you're constantly waking up in the middle of the night, that needs to be fixed. And 3, it needs to be easy to do. And after ranking 30 of the most important sleep protocols from S for super to F for fail, at the end, I'll crown one protocol as the best of the best and one as the worst of the worst. I'm Juan, and over the past year, I've been trying to increase the amount of rest-ridden sleep I can get and consistently improve my overall sleep quality. And if you want to see my everyday sleep stats, what I do for exercise, and what I eat, go follow my new Instagram down below. So let's start with the most controversial sleep advice on the internet: melatonin. In a meta-analysis study, it was found that melatonin only helps you sleep about 3.9 minutes longer and only boosts your sleep efficiency by about 2.2%, which means it doesn't actually improve your sleep that much. However, as we get older, the benefits you get from melatonin actually increases. Your brain has a 24-hour clock called the suprachiasmatic nucleus. This clock keeps track time internally and lets you know when to go to sleep. The mechanism behind all of this is by using this hormone called melatonin. Now, as we get older, we end up calcifying our pineal gland, which is a gland that helps us produce melatonin. This is the reason why older adults struggle falling asleep or staying asleep, therefore becoming early risers, while kids are able to sleep in. However, this doesn't mean we should blindly take melatonin pills just because we're getting older. Your body naturally produces about 0.1 to 0.9 milligrams of melatonin per night. This depends on your age, your light exposure, and your current nighttime habits. However, most melatonin supplements contain about 1 to 10 milligrams per pill. That's 10 to 100 times more melatonin than what our body can naturally make. This matters a lot because our pineal gland will reduce its own production of natural melatonin if we constantly take high doses of pills every night. So, if you're going to use melatonin, this study found that 0.3 milligrams of melatonin was the most effective amount where it actually increases your sleep quality. So to sum everything up, melatonin helps initiate the sleeping process, but it's not very effective in maintaining it throughout the night. Personally, the only time I would ever consider taking melatonin is right after a long travel when I have to adjust my circadian rhythm. And ideally, it's something I would not want to touch until the age of 60, as I want to rely more on my natural melatonin. So I'm going to put melatonin supplements in F tier. Now, let's look at some better advice. Blue light glasses. The ranking might surprise you here. Blue light glasses offer protection against melatonin suppression by filtering visible light in the 400 to 500 nanometer range. This reduces your eye strain, leading to better sleep, and I do credit blue light glasses for helping me fall asleep easily, even when I use electronics at night. However, it's true that blue light glasses don't block all disrupted lights, since any bright light in your home can still interfere with your sleep. That's why using smart bulbs that dim and shift to warmer tones at night is a great solution for your sleeping environment, and you can further protect your sleep by using blackout curtains to block light from the outside, and use tools like Flux on your computer and enabling night mode on your phone. To get the benefits for sleep, we need to think and optimize everything as a whole, so for that reason, I'm going to put blue light glasses alone in C tier, but combining blue light glasses with a smart bulb to warm your lights, using blackout curtains to eliminate outdoor light, and using Flux software to warm your electronic screens will go to A tier. You need to do all these protocols to get the benefits. Okay, so next up, no electronics 1 hour before bed. Studies found an association between screen media use and delayed bedtime and 2.3 hours of less sleep. This is due to psychological stimulation and light exposure. Honestly, this was one of the harder habits to implement, but at the same time, by doing this, I was able to improve overall deep sleep metrics from about an hour and 20 minutes to approximately 2 hours consistently every night. That said, the initial friction to implement this habit was pretty high because I really had the desire to entertain myself at night, and I still do time to time. It's a really hard habit to implement, but done correctly, you'll definitely see improvements in your deep sleep metric. Therefore, despite the friction, I'm going to have to put this advice in A tier. Now, how does EMF exposure from electronics affect our sleep? Well, studies found that workers exposed to magnetic fields had significantly lower melatonin secretion, and EMF exposure did increase your alpha wave activities, which is associated with wakefulness. Apparently, EMFs can induce weak electrical currents in the body. This appears to trigger our voltage-gated calcium channel, causing cells to build calcium inside of our body. This is why we not only see lower melatonin secretion, but oxidative stress, DNA damage, and hormonal changes. So there are several ways you can reduce EMF exposure. 1. Turning your phone on airplane mode, which disables the phone's wireless transmission, and because it's easy to do, I'm going to put this one in B tier. To go even further, turning off your Wi-Fi router is another way. This is the most effective method, but if you are living with people, it's probably selfish to shut everything down, so I'm going to have to put this one in D tier. But to physically avoid EMF, you can use EMF products. There are EMF blankets, canopies, and clothes where it prevents from emitting any signal. Now, a lot of people think these gadgets are another scam. However, a recent study found that silver threading does in fact refract EMF signals. That said, I personally only do the putting the phone on airplane mode, and I still believe this category as a whole is a micro optimization for our sleep. Therefore, I'm going to put EMF gears in C tier. Next, kiwi fruits. Kiwi has these 3 compounds that helps us sleep. Magnesium, which is a mineral that helps our muscle recover. Small amounts of melatonin, which helps us sleep, and vitamin C, which reduces oxidative stress and inflammation. As a matter of fact, kiwi fruits has the highest amount of natural vitamin C compared to other fruits. Studies have found kiwi significantly lower your stress, increase your energy during the day, and improve sleep quality. That said, if we're consuming kiwis right before bed, it will disturb our sleep since we need to digest the fruit during sleep. So it's going to be optimal if we consume it 3 to 4 hours before bed instead of eating it right before. Because there's a lot of data backing up how kiwi improves sleep and it's pretty delightful eating kiwis, I'm putting kiwi fruits in A tier. Now, let's talk about mouse tape. Mouse tape has some fascinating data behind it. After just 1 week of using a hypoallergenic tape during sleep, participants saw their apnea-hypopnea index cut nearly in half, dropping from 8.3 to 4.7 events per hour, meaning it reduced the occurrence of sleep apnea. But what's more impressive is the snoring index also dropped by 47% in just 1 week. Additionally, oxygen levels improved, with the lowest oxygen saturation rising from 82.5% to 87%. Personally, mouse taping completely eliminated my snoring. However, I do sometimes have this uncomfortable feeling whether I'm consuming some of the sticky parts from the tape. Another thing is mouse taping will be a lifetime commitment. I initially thought I would be able to train myself to be a nose breather without the mouse tape. However, the moment I stop using mouse tape, my snoring index goes right back up. I do think it has a lot more upside than down, so I'm going to rank mouse tape in A tier. Now let's take a look at essential oils. The study might surprise you here. Each person slept in a controlled lab for 2 nights. One night, they slept normally. The other night, the researchers secretly released lavender essential oil after the participants started sleeping, meaning any effect change in sleep came from the body and not the mind. Surprisingly, during the time participants had lavender essential oil, alpha wave activity went down, meaning fewer interruptions happened during sleep, and delta wave activity went up. And as a result, participants spent about 2.5% more of their total sleep in deep sleep. Now that said, we also have to consider whether if we're contaminating air quality, as any product containing fragrances will destroy our lungs. However, despite my initial belief on how all air freshening products are bad, studies have actually found certain essential oils like tea tree oils have actually improved indoor air quality by inhibiting certain types of microorganisms. Now, we still need to be cautious of what we buy. I still think it will rank in C tier mainly because we have to do a lot of research on what oils to buy. Alright, so next, chamomile tea. Chamomile tea has this compound called apigenin. Apigenin is responsible for calming your body and making you feel sleepy by binding itself to the GABA receptors inside of your brain. That said, chamomile tea comes inside of a tea bag, and tea bags comes with millions of microplastics, plus the tea bags are coated with this chemical called epichlorohydrin, which increases your chance of lung cancer. But let's just say we're using raw tea leaves with no bags. Well, there's still pesticides that we need to worry about. This study found that in average, 86 types of pesticides were used to process tea, and a lot of chamomile tea sold in European countries had pesticide concentration above the European standards. But let's just assume again we do find chamomile tea that contains no pesticides, no microplastics, and so on. There's still a problem. Drinking late at night will cause you to wake up in the middle of the night to go use the bathroom, therefore not being optimal for sleep. So I'm going to put chamomile tea in D tier. An alternative I would use is supplementing with apigenin. It could be placebo, but during the first months I started taking apigenin, I did feel like I was falling asleep a lot faster and I felt like I was getting more deeper sleep. So I'm going to put apigenin in B tier. Next, early exercise. When I tested cardio at 5 a.m. versus 5 p.m. over 2 separate weeks, the results were surprising. Working out during the morning consistently lowered my resting heart rate from being in the mid 50s to high 40s and got my resting heart rate from being in the hundreds to 140s. Early morning cardio kept both markers in much healthier range. The biggest reason behind this is that evening exercise ramps up your sympathetic nervous system. Evening workouts will raise your stress levels and core body temperature, therefore making it harder to wind down and recover during sleep. Remember, at night we want to lower our body temperature, and working out raises your body temperature. Therefore, exercising early during the day is critical for optimal sleep, so I'm going to rank this in S tier. That said, if I had to pick no exercise versus evening exercise, I will always choose the evening exercise, as exercise is crucial for health and good sleep, which leads us to the next point. Do we want to overexert our body for great sleep? Surprisingly, the times I would be able to naturally sleep for 9 to 10 hours straight without waking up would also be the time I would run a marathon or overexert my body. But let's take a look at how that actually impacts our overall sleep. This is my sleep after a marathon. While I slept for 11 hours without waking up, realistically I only got 8 hours and 43 minutes of sleep. My deep sleep levels are low, REM sleep is also low, my HRV and resting heart rate is at suboptimal level. It seems like overexerting your body is terrible for sleep. However, this is day 2 after I overexert my body. My awake time significantly dropped compared to day 1, and my deep sleep and REM sleep significantly improved. But you still can see a little bit of spike as my body is not fully recovered. Now this is day 3, and this is when my body is at its peak and I normally hit a PR on my HRV and resting heart rate. My awake time also reduced from an hour to 41 minutes, and deep and REM sleep reduced just a little bit, perhaps because my body is fully recovered. In order to see a PR on my sleep stat, overexerting your body once in a while is very effective. I have consistently seen this pattern for the past 2 years. Whenever I overexert my body, 2 to 3 days afterwards is always the time I would hit a PR on my HRV and resting heart rate, which is the best indicator of good sleep. And this is the secret to achieving a 200 HRV. Overexerting your body is like taking a step back to move 2 steps forward. You definitely don't want to do it every day, but I personally find once a week is the Goldilocks zone for optimal improvement. That said, this is just purely my experience, and I'm putting this in between A and B tier. Next, cold room environment. But first, why does cold room temperature improve your sleep? Well, your core body temperature needs to drop about 2 degrees Fahrenheit to initiate and maintain sleep. This cooling signals the brain to ramp up melatonin production and shift the body into sleep mode. If the room is too warm, your body struggles to offload heat, which delays the time you fall asleep and reduces the amount of deep sleep you get. So setting your AC to around 68 degrees is probably the best thing you can do. I personally started setting my A-Sleep mattress to 55 degrees Fahrenheit, and surprisingly, while I was shivering in bed feeling excruciatingly cold, it actually reduced my resting heart rate by 2 to 3 beats per minute. And as of now, I'm trying to acclimate my body to getting used to this temperature. While I do feel uncomfortably cold, I also do feel a lot more recovered, and the science supports this, so I'm putting low temperature in A tier. But while we stay in the topic of temperature, do we want to take a warm shower or a cold shower before bed? Well, in this study, 40 to 42.5 degree shower scheduled 1 to 2 hours before bedtime improved sleep quality the most, as it showed 10 minutes of shortening of sleep onset latency, meaning people fell asleep a lot faster. What's really fascinating though is how the duration and the type of shower had a huge impact on sleep quality. It was found longer bathing time increased our skin temperature, which increased our sleep efficiency and reduced sleep latency up to 50%. So if you're struggling with falling asleep or want better quality sleep, take a 15-minute warm bath at around 40-degree temperature 1.5 to 2 hours before bed. I personally tested both cold showers and warm showers 90 minutes before bed for 30 days each, and while cold shower did significantly decrease my heart rate instantly, my heart rate started climbing back up and actually resulted myself in a higher stress zone by the time I was trying to sleep, while warm shower gave me more of an overall decline in stress. Therefore, I'm going to put warm shower in A tier. Next, the Tart cherry juice. The studies on Tart cherry juice actually surprised me. In this study, people over the age of 50 who experienced insomnia drank a glass of Tart cherry juice twice a day for 2 weeks, then took a break and later tried a placebo for 2 more weeks. The participants' sleep time increased by 84 minutes when they took the actual Tart cherry juice. But what's more interesting is how it worked. Tart cherry juice doesn't just have a little bit of melatonin, it also contains a plant compound called procyanidin B2. This compound helps your body hold on to tryptophan, an amino acid that helps you make serotonin, which calms your brain and reduces your inflammation, which is often why people can't sleep well.
So personally, because Tart cherry juice is very concentrated, I like to have about 2 to 3 tablespoons and dilute it with water. Also, since eating late is bad, I'd ideally like to drink it 3 to 4 hours before bed.
So I'm putting Tart cherry juice in C tier, mainly because the amount of benefits I get from sleep is very low. Now, you might have watched me take Magnesium Threonate. Magnesium L Threonate is very interesting. In a 3-week randomized control trial, participants were given either 1 gram of Magnesium L Threonate or a placebo pill taken 2 hours before bedtime. Compared to the placebo group, those who supplemented with Magnesium Threonate showed reduced sleep latency and increase in light, REM, and deep sleep duration. That said, overall sleep quality scores did not significantly differ, meaning it didn't have an impact in your resting heart rate or heart rate variability. I personally have been taking Magnesium Threonate for more than a year now, mainly due to the studies, but haven't really felt any difference or seen any drastic changes on my sleep stats. So I'm also going to rank Magnesium Threonate in C tier. Now, stretching is a debatable topic once it comes to sleep. Only 5 out of 16 studies reported that stretching significantly improved your sleep. Notable enhancements included 8% increase in sleep efficiency, a 4.36 decrease in sleep onset latency, and a 14.7 improvement in total sleep time. But then again, why did the other 11 studies report that stretching harms your sleep? The main reason is the studies use different types of stretches and different durations. You will not want to go for a split PR right before bed because it will raise your heart rate. We want to be doing something that increases your blood flow, but at the same time, not too hard to the point where it turns into a workout. This easy zone of stretching is the Goldilocks zone where you'll improve your sleep quality by modulating the autonomic nervous system, promoting muscle relaxation, regulating stress hormone levels, enhancing blood circulation, and reducing stress. Unfortunately, each person will have different levels of flexibility and each stretch will depend on the individual. While I personally find this stretch to increase my nasal breathing and improve sleep, for those that are not used to stretching might not want to start with this stretch at night as hard stretches will harm your sleep. So start with something light and easy. Since there were only 5 out of 16 studies that showed improvement in sleep, and considering how there is not an all-in fit one protocol, I'm going to put stretching in C tier. So next, weighted blankets. A weighted blanket is a heavy blanket filled with beads to make the blanket heavy. It gives a gentle pressure, kind of like a hug. According to some studies, this pressure can help the body relax by lowering your heart rate, reducing stress hormones like cortisol, and calming the autonomic nervous system. There were 9 studies involving 553 people with mental health conditions who were using weighted blankets, but it showed some people slept better and longer while others didn't find much difference. When I personally used weighted blankets, I wasn't too much of a fan of it because I felt like someone was holding me down, and the data behind weighted blankets is not strong enough, and some of the studies of how they measure sleep quality were very subjective, such as asking participants how they felt versus getting actual measurements. So I'm going to have to put weighted blankets in D tier. So next up, Yoga Nidra. After 4 weeks of Yoga Nidra, this study found patients cut their time awake during the night from 135 minutes to 59 minutes. Furthermore, their sleep efficiency went up from 68.6% to 83.8%. That is a huge improvement. Whenever I do yoga nidra, I do have this sensation where I can feel every single blood cell flowing inside of my body, and sometimes I get a tingling sensation wherever I'm concentrating. It's a calming feeling, and I noticed my awake time in bed also significantly reduced when I do yoga nidra. That said, I also learned that if I do yoga nidra every single night, my body starts getting used to it and my awake time in bed goes back up again. Therefore, I like to do yoga nidra 3 to 4 times a week. It definitely is a great tool if you struggle to fall asleep, so I'm going to rank yoga nidra in high B tier. Okay, so let's talk about caffeine. We all know caffeine disrupts sleep, especially when taken close to bedtime. But this study looked at how much it affects sleep when taken at different times before bed. Surprisingly, caffeine consumed 6 hours before bed still disrupted sleep as if you were to take caffeine right before bed. People who took caffeine right before bed and 6 hours before bed both lost 1.2 hours of sleep, and it took people an average 20 minutes to fall asleep. The only thing that caffeine right before bed was worse at was the amount of wake time in bed. While Huberman promotes later day caffeine for extended productivity, if you are drinking caffeine, I still say it's better to finish early versus later. Overall, I have nothing against caffeine, but in a pure sleep optimization perspective, caffeine is the enemy for sleep, so I'm going to have to put avoid caffeine in A tier. So let's talk about naps. It was found 5 to 15 minutes of short naps boost performance almost immediately, but the effects only last for a few hours. Now, longer naps over 30 minutes caused grogginess at first. They provided longer lasting benefits afterwards. This study found that naps can refresh the brain by quickly reactivating the cells that help us stay awake. That said, we have 3 key factors that affect how helpful naps are. First, timing. Naps in the early afternoon was the most effective. Second, sleepiness. If you've been awake longer naps were more helpful. And third, habit. People who nap regularly got more benefits than those who don't. However, based on my experience, it was always more optimal to avoid naps at all costs, as that reduced my sleep efficiency at night. That said, if I ever sleep 6 to 7 hours at night, I would prefer naps over not napping. So preferably use naps as a tool, not something to rely on. I'm going to put naps somewhere in between B and C tier. So next, let's talk about having the same sleep time and wake time every single day. While it's a very basic advice, it's the most effective method in stabilizing your suprachiasmatic nucleus, which in simple terms is your brain's circadian rhythm. By aligning your sleep-wake cycle with your internal circadian rhythm, you improve your timing of melatonin release and the timing of your body temperature dip, all of which that regulates your sleep quality. Personally, when I committed to waking up at 5:30 and sleeping by 9 p.m. every night, I saw a steady climb in my sleep efficiency. What used to hover around 70% now consistently sits in the 85 to 90% range. It's not the flashiest habit, but it's one of the most effective ways to fix your sleep. And for that reason, it's not only going to S tier, but will be ranked as the best of the best for sleep. But what effectively will help you sleep at the same time and wake up at the same time will be our next sleep protocol, morning sunlight. I think we've heard from every single health experts about how important morning sunlight is, but why? Well, as we talk about sleep and light, we're gonna keep on running into this term called the suprachiasmatic nucleus. It's a very tiny, probably smaller than a grain of rice, part of your brain that controls your entire circadian rhythm. Your circadian rhythm affects when you feel awake, sleepy, and hungry. Now, your circadian rhythm is mainly signaled from light, especially natural sunlight. When light hits your eye in the morning, it tells your brain it's daytime, be alert. And the more morning sunlight we get at night, when it's dark, your brain starts releasing more natural melatonin, a hormone that helps you fall asleep. It's the most foundational, easy habit you can implement, so I'm going to put morning sunlight in A tier. Okay, so next, let's talk about sleep tracking. Sleep tracking is by far the most overlooked hack that I believe we should all be doing. When I didn't use Whoop to track my sleep, I always thought I was getting 7 to 8 hours of sleep every night, but in reality, I was actually getting 6 hours of sleep due to sleep latency and moments of wake-up time during my sleep. The way I can get 8 hours of sleep nowadays is by sleeping 9 hours in bed. Sleeping without a sleep tracker is like running the 100-meter dash without knowing how fast you're running. While it doesn't physically improve your sleep, it provides valuable information for you to get better sleep. And if you want to maximize your health, a sleep tracker is a must-have. So I'm ranking sleep tracking in A tier. I use a Whoop to track my sleep and I'll put a link down below.
And guys, if you want to work one-on-one with me and get pristine sleep, increase your HRV while building tremendous amount of strength, join the waitlist to get early access to my new one-on-one coaching that's launching next week. So yeah, I'll see you in the next one.